Right, so with the latest version of the ArcGIS API for JavaScript, you could actually use it in Node.js. Now, it's technically not built to be run in Node. It's meant for being used in browsers, right? It's got WebGL and displays some really cool looking maps and everything. It's a great API for doing stuff like that. But there are pieces of the API that you could use inside of Node. So how would we do something like that? Make a directory. Let's call it JS API node. CD into that. Let me do an init here real quick. And what am I going to need? I'm going to need the, of course, I'm going to need ArcGIS core, crossfetch, right? Because we're going to do it as a native modules, native ESM, the abort controller, because the API does use the abort controller internally. So you're going to have to add that polyfill in here. All right, so let's go let those install. Okay, awesome. Because I still like having folders. I don't know why. We'll call it app folder, cd in app. And let's go ahead and create a query MJS, right? So like I said, this is going to be a module that we're going to want to use. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to import the crossfetch polyfills, right? So crossfetch, but you want to go in, you want to grab the actual files. So it's going to be the node polyfill .js, right? So remember, if you're working with yes modules and stuff, technically you should be grabbing the JS files. So let's do that. I'm also going to bring in the abort controller, and again go to dist, and I think it's just regular polyfill. Yeah, there we go. I thought so. And yes, I like semicolons. Okay, so a couple of things you want to do if you're working in Node. By default, the ArcGIS JavaScript API is going to go ahead and handle authentication under the hood for you. So if it hits the service, it requires authentication. It kicks off all these steps to do OAuth, right? But the OAuth stuff is currently relies on opening a browser and doing a redirect to a page and everything. So it's browser based. If you don't know, which sometimes you may not know if your app's going to hit OAuth, it's safest to just go ahead and prevent the identity manager from loading, period, right? You want to prevent that inside of a node environment. So we're going to go ahead and load the config from ArcGIS core config.js. I forget that sometimes. So now we're going to say config.request. Ooh, look at that, nice IntelliSense, right? And use identity is going to be equal to false. So this will prevent the identity manager from loading under the hood. It'll stop all that cool stuff. Load a layer. So let's go ahead and load a feature layer from ArcGIS core layers. Feature layer. Awesome. So I'm going to need a layer ID. So let me grab one here. Create a layer. Not later, layer. A new feature layer, and this feature layer is going to take a portal item object, right? And that item object is going to have an ID, and that ID is going to be that string right there. So that's the ID I've got for my layer. So because the API does use native promises under the hood, I can use async await here, but we don't have top level await JavaScript yet. Does TypeScript have it? God damn it. I don't know if TypeScript has it. I'm not using TypeScript right now. So query layer, and then I'm going to pass some kind of like search term to that this function. So I got async function. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the layer to load, because typically you give a layer to a map, which is then given to a view. And that map view handles loading the layer and all the resources under the hood so that it can start using it. But we're not doing that. We're going to handle it all ourselves, right? So a little bit of work to do there. So I'm going to get a query is going to be equal to the layer dot create query. If there's any definition expressions defined on this layer via the portal item or something like that, they'll be populated in the query for me, so I don't have to create a query by myself. Query out field. I don't want all the fields because there's an awful lot of fields in this layer. I only want name, and let's say state name. There is a field on here called vacant, right? So it's going to tell me how many vacant housing units, I guess it'd be referred to, not necessarily homes, but this housing units that are vacant. And then I want the housing units field, right? So those are my out fields. I do not want geometry, so I'm going to say return geometry is going to be equal to false. And let's go ahead and say that query where is going to be equal to the term that I pass to this function. So whatever kind of search I'm passing here is what I'm going to go ahead and use for the query. Now we can go ahead and do the actual work. So I can go ahead and say that the features layer.query features returns back a feature set, and that feature set has a property called features, and that's really what I'm interested in. There's some other data on there, but I'm really interested in just the features themselves. So once I got those features, I'm going to go ahead and log it out. So let's go ahead and say, let me stringify this. JSON.stringify features. Then what is the, to make them look good? You guys remember? Anybody remember? Null, and I want to say 2. That'll prettify my JSON result, right? Okay, let me go into the folder. What did I call this? JS API node. There we go. Okay, so now what I want to do is node app. What is this called? Query MJS. Nope, didn't do it. Oh, here's what did I do wrong? Did I not save it? Oh. Just, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so I have to call the function because nothing happens if you don't call the function. All right, so what is my term going to be? I'm interested in housing units that are greater than 1,000. So I'm only interested in features that have a value greater than 1,000 here. I mean, this is pretty much SQL, right, that you're sending to the server, so this stuff can go ahead and get done. Not found. What did I mess up? Let's come up here. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's in this folder. Why didn't anybody tell me that? Yeah, there's just polyfill. If I could use it. .js. I just spent like this whole video telling you guys you gotta import the JavaScript files and stuff because it's ESM and ta-da! Let me make this a little bit smaller. And let's look at the results here. So here are the results. Each of these is a feature, and we've got some null geometries because I said I didn't care about getting geometries back. And here are the attributes. So name of Franklin. So Franklin, Georgia has 2013 vacant homes out of 10,553 housing units, or vacant units, I should probably say. So there you go. That's pretty much how you can use the JavaScript API inside of a Node environment. There is a sample on ArcGIS JS API resources on GitHub. You can check out. It's got a sample to do the rollup build version. So these actually look a little bit easier. It's like this. That's not what I'm looking for. So in the source folder, something like the request. You bring stuff in and use it. The one that's useful here that could be useful if you're doing something in Node is going to probably be something like projection engine. It's easier to do it if you do something to use it. If you're going to go ahead and use something like projection engine, because it does have WebAssembly under the hood, and you kind of want rollup to do this build for you so that the WebAssembly stuff works correctly. If not, you got to get kind of hacky to get WebAssembly to work inside of a Node environment. And yeah, this is cleaner. This is just cleaner than having to do a little bit of hack. It's not a big hack. It's a few lines of code and stuff, but it's just easier if you do something like this here to make everything work. And we've talked about assets path before. It's got to point the assets, tell it where it can load those WebAssembly files that it's going to need from somewhere, right? So that's it. That's how you can do it. Quick sample here. More samples on GitHub. Knock yourselves out. Thanks.